Hey y'all, this is Billy from Perma Pastures Farm. Exciting day today because this marks the new iteration of the chicken tractor on steroids. Now, let me just get this out of the way right off, folks. This isn't our intellectual property. It was devised by the genius named Jeff Lawton down in Australia. And I think it was inspired from a guy named Carl Hammer actually here in America. Anyway, this is our version of it because we've had to change a number of things to suit our terrain and the conditions we have here. So with that said, what did we do before? The previous versions of the chicken tractor on steroids, not only did we produce all of our chicken for free, in fact, we made money on the deal when you add how much compost they made. Now, the big difference from the first time to the second time was the amount that we produced, and it was an enormous amount. I think it was 21 cubic yards of compost that these birds produced while getting fat at the same time to put in the freezer. Okay, so what have we got so far? These birds were actually incubated and hatched by us. Now, they're not specifically a broiler. They are a dual purpose bird. Now, what they are, I can't tell you because Persimmon Phil, our rooster, basically got his groove on with every chicken out there and produced what we brought down last night in this chicken tractor. And by the way, this chicken tractor we don't use for anything other than producing our meat, okay? So, Persimmon Phil made a bunch of little children, and we got about 30 some in there, and we also have mixed in some replacements to our layer flock. We'll get into that on down the road as we cover it. Now, folks, just right off the bat, we're not looking, it's not some cheesy vlog or anything like that, because there is so much involved in this system. This isn't just your regular chicken growing system. There's so many nuanced things and so many changes and deviations that we make along the way that we give you updates weekly on Sunday, hopefully. Okay, so first day out here, we got them in here. They're in there chilling. They're going to be a little squeamish. They ain't going to want to come out. We'll get to that in a minute. But the first thing we need to do is set up their cage, their compost cage, which is what this is. Folks, if you saw our compost video, it's the same material. The only difference is we've taken 1-inch hardware cloth and have attached it to this woven wire fence. So what we did, remember, when we make compost, we need at least a cubic yard to make it work. So we do the math on this thing. It's basically 6 feet across, 6 feet in diameter, and about 1.5 feet tall. We don't need quite that much to achieve a cubic yard. And the reason why it's set up that way is I want it low. It was made specifically for meat birds, but these guys could easily fly up there. It was made low to get all the material we need and at the same time allow these birds easy access to get in and out. We'll provide ramps at first, but they're not going to need them here before long. Now, first thing we're going to do, we're going to assemble this cage. Remember, it comes like this. We left little hooks on the end. We're going to attach this cage, and then we're going to take all the bedding that we got from when they were in the brooder, all that bedding that was up there. Remember, we don't waste anything. All that bedding that was in the brooder is going to go here. But before we do that, we're going to thoroughly wet the bottom of it. We're going to put in the bedding, and then we're going to wet it again. Then we'll come back to it. All right, now we have their soiled bedding in here. It's wet down. You want to saturate this stuff the first time you do it. Now, I do want to say that in Jeff Lawton's system, you would take their bedding, put it down first, and then about a wheelbarrow full of whatever clean manure you can find, preferably. And then you would stick that down. And then daily, you would take their food and stick it on top, and then the chickens come out and work it over. We're going to get to all that in a little while. It's too much to unfold for 1 week. And folks, also a word of caution. If this is your first time out running chickens, don't do this. If it's your second time, you don't want to do it either. You want to have at least a decent understanding of chickens, and it would help to have a functional knowledge of compost as well. But if you want to go out and give it a shot, please do let me know. Because folks, this is by far the most complex meat growing chicken system I know of, but for me it's also the most rewarding. And we're gonna cover more and more of this as we go along. Like I said, go back and watch the previous videos of how we did it. So now, that part's done. We got these little planks here, spaced a little bit too wide, but I got news for you. These chickens at this age can already fly up here easily. So all we're gonna do is station 3 of them. We'll kind of put one right here on their path coming out of there. Whether or not they use it is up to them, but we'll just station them pretty much around here. So we'll post these up and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, because these animals are not used to being outside in sunlight yet, they're not gonna wanna go out. So the most important thing at first when we begin this is to make sure that we put, is basically their store-bought food. This is gonna go away in a while and we'll explain that later. Put their store-bought food, a little bit of chick grit, and their water in very, very close proximity to the door. Because the first thing they're gonna wanna do when they come out, you may have a couple of brave souls at first, but they're gonna wanna stay in there all day. As soon as we drop that door, we're gonna shoo them out, and you want this stuff in close proximity. Now let's get on to the fence. All right, time for the net. Now, anybody that's ever taken chicks and put them outside, you already know that I don't care how hot you make this, they're gonna make their way out. So we're gonna do it differently, and this is the way we've been doing it for quite a while. Instead of just running this net once out and making it small, or in the past I've taken things like snow fence. Now they won't get out of that, and I kind of stuck it at the bottom. It's a pain. So what we're gonna do is just double up the net, maybe even triple it up. We're gonna keep it as, because they're not wanting to go too far right now anyway. We're just gonna double it up and we're gonna run this fence out in a very close circle around here. All right, now we're gonna make this fence hot, and all we're gonna do is apply, we got our tethering system. Go back and watch that video if you'd like to learn more about it. We're just gonna take this number 14, I'm gonna roll it down there to where that bee fence is, and I'm just gonna strip off, add it to there. So now it's tethered, this whole thing is tethered there. Now folks, if you look at this fence, it's almost triple deep on this. So the holes don't line up perfectly. When the chicken goes up there and gets zapped on that thing, it ain't gonna take long for them to realize I need to stay in my lane. All right, everything is ready to rock and roll. Got to make a few adjustments on the fence, but outside of that, I'm gonna let these guys out and they ain't gonna come running out. Behold. So what we're gonna have to do, we can sit here and wait, and then eventually there'll be some brave soul to finally wanna come out, okay? Another reason we got this small footprint is that also it makes it a harder target to any aerial predators. So we're gonna leave it like this, and we're gonna stay in this area. A lot of it's gonna depend on how much they soil this area and how much activity I see in them. That's why I say, if you're a novice, maybe don't start with this. So what's gonna happen eventually, because you're not gonna see this part, over the next 3 days, they're gonna come out and the majority of them won't know how to get back in. So I have to find them underneath, put them back in at night. Another thing that's going to happen. Right now, they're going to come out, they got feed on demand. In 3 days, that's probably going to change. As soon as I open this gate, this door, once I see them running out, I'm going to take that and I'm going to stick it over inside here. Then they're going to have a Pavlovian response to where they need to go to get fed. And then gradually, and this is all happening from now until the next time you see a video, we're going to switch out from that, and they're going to be on food scraps. That's a whole nother ball of wax, folks, so bear with me. This is how we set it up, though. So with that said, we're gonna get these guys out, and we're gonna get them, they're gonna probably spend the majority of today underneath here, but they're gonna figure out, they're gonna explore their environment. So folks, this is part one. This is how you set this up. The biggest difference now is we don't even have initial input cost for the cost of the birds. The only thing we've paid for thus far has been the store-bought organic feed, and it's only been 2 bags. That ain't that much. So Hopefully this helps. Stay tuned for the next one. Till next time, this is Billy, the Permaculture Pimp Daddy, where PIMP stands for Permaculture is my passion. We'll see you next time.